Good morning, I'm Mayor Tommy Roberts. Welcome back to the Mayor's Table. This morning we're coming to you from the Municipal Operations Center, Southeast Farmington. My guest this morning is Public Works Director David Seifer. David's been our guest on another segment of the Mayor's Table, but welcome back, David.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
David, at this time of year we always are concerned about storms, snowstorms in particular, but we can have icing conditions at times related to snowfall, and we want people to know that we're well prepared to deal with those kinds of events, those kinds of significant weather events in Farmington. So I want to talk a little bit about the snow removal process here this morning.
Sure.
I want to talk about what the protocol is for calling out our equipment when we have a snow event.
Okay, well, great. We have, first of all, a very experienced staff that really is well trained and knows what they're doing from year to year. Each year in about October we go and we make sure that all of our equipment's up and running and that our supplies are all purchased and in place. And really when we go out on an event we have several layers of notifications available to us. The first, most important, is probably our own street sweeper who sweeps at night. Mm-hmm. He provides good communication to us. When we have a forecasted event, we actually put people on call, about 12 or 14 individuals actually, 2 of which are supervisory. And the police department is another very most important leg of that communication loop. We have the sheriff's office in addition to that, and emergency management also contacts the airports, both at Aztec and in our city, and provides us information what's going on. So have a nice network. Sure.
Do we have any notification procedure to the general public?
We post on the internet our routes and what we're doing with what our procedures are. But as far as calling the general public, we don't, except for the schools. We communicate well with the schools on each snow event.
We're out here at the Municipal Operations Center where you keep all of your equipment and materials that you use in the snow removal process. And behind us here we have a couple of pieces of the equipment and we have some materials. Why don't you describe for our viewers what the equipment is in our inventory, and then what kind of materials you have to have in inventory to deal with these kinds of conditions.
Okay, great. We have, let me start with our equipment. We try to have 7 pieces of equipment with heavy plows on them. So in other words, 7 of our large dump trucks for the 12 routes that we have. Then we have 5 smaller trucks, 4 3/4 ton trucks, and then 1 1-ton truck that will go and help spread it at particular intersections and such. And so we have, when we have a call out, we'll have, like we said, 14 people that are called out. 2 will be supervisory, and then actually 12 separate routes that occur. Supplies that we use besides the large dump trucks and the pickup trucks with the spreaders on them would be, we use 3 different chemicals. We use what we call an ice slicer, which is chlorine compounds with potassium and calcium and sodium mixed in it. And then that is mixed with sand to provide for traction, and also it gives a better coverage as well, more affordable coverage, if you will. And then we also have magnesium chloride, which we've got to be judicious when we use that. It's expensive, and if we put it out when the weather's too warm, the rain washes us away, of course that isn't a very good end result. Makes actually things more slippery and dangerous than it would be helpful. So the guys are well trained and know what temperatures that needs to go out, and so it's the magnesium chloride, the ice slicer, and then the sand mix, then those pieces of equipment that I iterated. And that's basically the tools that we're using at this time.
How many employees does it take to conduct all of these operations when we have a snow event?
So when we have a light snow event, the 14 is quite enough. When we have an ongoing event or a heavy event, we actually will work up to a 16-hour day, and then we will have the other half of the crew. We have about 23 people in our street department who will then take over. In emergency events, real huge events, we will utilize the parks department as well and sequester 5 gentlemen and some of their equipment as well.
We may have some of our viewers thinking this is a pretty good idea. It'd be nice to get that city street department, the snow removal people out on my residential street.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the parameters of our operation.
That is a great question. Really, we try to set up, on these 12 individual routes that I spoke of, we try to set up something that's going to take about 4 hours. We have a couple of the routes that are more like 6 hours. But what we do when we, our foreman comes in and he checks the bellwether locations to see how things are when he first gets his call outs. Usually about 3:30 in the morning. Our goal is to get out about 4:30 in the morning so that by 8 all the commuting main areas are open and clear. And you brought up the fact, well, what do we do with residential areas? Well, we really try to get the main routes, which is about 100 miles, just a little over 100 miles of road, cleaned before the actual workday starts at 8 o'clock. So that's our goal. And usually later in the week, not during the snow event, if there's hazardous areas or in the residential areas, then we'll hit them. But unfortunately, there's just not enough personnel, equipment, and time to really get the residential areas as in a general sense.
We've only had a couple of significant snow events this year, and it'd be nice if we'd avoid any more, I think.
Yes, we've been very lucky.
I imagine the employees, I would think they might enjoy getting out and enjoy that process of snow removal. I might be wrong about that, but nevertheless, the snowfall does create issues for our traveling public. But we've had a couple of snow events. I think the more significant one was around Thanksgiving. It came pretty early in the season, but what did we do? Was that considered a significant event as far as our snow removal process is concerned?
More of an average event. It wasn't a large event and it wasn't a small event. We've had some other ice events, but it really was our only event this year that we sent out the regular 12 route crew. We have had some icing where we would go out and try to de-ice the intersections and such, but that was really the only major event this year that I call it major, but I say significant enough to dispatch the whole program. I'd
like to give the viewers some feel for what it's like when we do have a major event, and I think probably during your time here in Farmington, in your position, we've had a major snow event. So describe what it's like getting everybody coordinated and getting the crews out where they need to be. I would imagine it'd be somewhat hectic.
It is somewhat hectic, and the interesting thing is that, like you said, it is, when something's new, it can be fun. But after they've ran their first 14-hour shift, I think that new excitement comes off. And I just really have to say that we've got awesome people. You know, they respond to the tasks, they get out there, and they work hard. And it is, you know, you need those two supervisors I spoke of earlier to just keep things moving, make sure all the supplies and you know, when we have our breakdowns, that we get the repairs done in a timely fashion and keep things moving. And yes, it gets quite hectic when you have a major event.
A couple of other things before we close. I'm curious about the value of the equipment that we have that is involved in the snow removal process. So if you had to make a guess, an estimate of total value of equipment inventory to accomplish this process, what would you value?
I would say with our equipment that we have now, we're probably about $1.5 million worth of equipment.
And then annual budget for snow removal, do we break it down that specifically?
I don't have it as a specific number, no.
What would you think would be?
I would say we're probably spending around $200,000 for labor.
Well, I think it's a fun topic to talk about in a way. I mean, most people, when it snows, they think about all of the fun times they can have as a result of snow, skiing, but there is another side to that story, and that's the services that we provide as the city of Farmington. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I said it a little bit before, but you really can't say it enough about the guys that have to get up at 3 in the morning and come out and make sure that the rest of us are safe. And I'm thankful for them, and I would just like to say thank you to them.
And that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this segment, is to highlight some of the more special work, specific work that our employees at the City of Farmington do, and we want to express our appreciation to them for doing that work. I think this is just another segment of operating a city that a lot of people don't realize that is being done and take for granted, but it's a very important segment of the services, the overall scope of programs and services that we provide to the citizens of Farmington. I want to thank you all for joining us here again this morning, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week at the Mayor's Table.